Hello, Chosen One. The darkness has been pressing hard this week because it sees what you can't see yet, the door that's about to open. I know precisely the kind of suffocating heaviness you have been carrying over the last few days. You have been sitting in the quiet, looking at the walls of your room, feeling this unnatural, almost violent friction in the atmosphere around you. You are dealing with unprovoked attacks, sudden surges of old anxieties, and the bizarre, erratic behavior of people who are suddenly throwing tantrums, breaking character, or exposing their hidden malice. You might be making the tragic mistake of thinking this friction is a penalty. You might be sitting there wondering if you miscalculated your healing, if you took a wrong turn, or if the universe is somehow punishing you for a mistake you cannot even identify. Let me stop you right there and completely rewire your perception of this exact moment. Transform your current pain into the undeniable physical evidence of your imminent breakthrough. The enemy is not attacking you because you have failed. The spiritual resistance is not ramping up because you are moving in the wrong direction. The enemy is launching absolutely everything it has at you right now simply because of what is coming. This relentless pressure is the absolute proof of your imminent promotion. The shadows only panic and stretch their longest when the dawn is about to fully break the horizon. This intense spiritual warfare is the atmospheric pressure of you breaking through the stratosphere into a totally new, untouchable altitude of your destiny. I'm declaring right now, today, this week, that this specific cycle of struggle, this exhausting marathon of dealing with performative, draining entities, is ending. It is coming to a definitive close within the next 24 hours. And for many of you, the chains are snapping by the time you reach the end of this very message. And it is not ending because of some random stroke of luck or a sudden shift in the astrological weather. It is ending because of the deep, agonizing, unseen internal work you have diligently, relentlessly completed in the dark. You have passed the test. You held your tongue when your ego screamed for blood. You maintained your grace when you were surrounded by individuals absolutely demanding your outrage. You shifted your internal architecture, and because you changed the blueprint, your external reality has no choice but to immediately conform to your new frequency. I'm Brian. For decades, I've been writing spiritual content and helping people to achieve real awakening, guiding individuals just like you through the treacherous, often brutal wilderness of deep psychological liberation and spiritual transformation. I have studied the precise mechanics of the human ego, the desperate pantomime of the insecure mind, and the breathtaking power of a soul that finally stops apologizing for its own light. I'm here to tell you exactly why certain people in your life are currently exposing themselves in the most embarrassing, frantic ways imaginable. The premise is delightfully simple, yet profound. The people who secretly competed with you are unmasking because your frequency has literally forced their synthetic facades to melt. Everyone in the unseen realm and the silent observers in the physical realm are talking about how you checkmated them with sheer style. And the absolute beauty of this victory is that it cannot be undone. They are panicking because you stopped playing by their toxic, fabricated rules. And in doing so, you collapsed their entire performative reality. Before we dive into the exact anatomy of how you effortlessly dismantled their game, I need you to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button to lock in this energetic alignment, drop a comment with what point hit you hardest, and share this video with another chosen one who needs this exact confirmation today. Step 1. Liquidate the pedestal you built for their false potential. The grand tragedy of your spiritual journey, and perhaps your most beautiful vulnerability, has always been your supernatural ability to see the absolute highest potential in deeply broken, deeply stagnant people. Because you are a chosen one, your default operating system is immense, overflowing empathy. When you look at individuals who are operating from a place of malice, insecurity, or toxic performance, you do not immediately see the hollow, echoing void that they actually are. Instead, you look right past the debris and see the magnificent architecture of who they could become if they simply chose to heal. You took your own pure energy, your precious time, and your deep reservoir of grace, and you built a towering, gleaming pedestal for them. You placed them squarely on top of it, projecting your own beautiful, profound inner light onto their empty canvas. The stark contrast here is the raw, uncomfortable truth of human psychology. You operate from a place of authentic, overflowing alignment, while the imitator operates from a place of perpetual deficit. You wanted them to step into their light, but they were utterly terrified of it. Achieving that potential would require them to enter the agonizing fire of self-accountability, and they would much rather freeze to death in their comfortable, familiar victimhood than do the brutal work of dismantling their own ego. The deep psychology of their current frantic meltdown is rooted entirely in the fact that you finally woke up and stopped pretending their potential was their reality. When you dismantled that pedestal, you did not do it with explosive rage or a vindictive scream. You did it with a quiet, devastating clarity. You simply reached out and took your emotional masonry back. You accepted them for exactly who they are choosing to be in this current moment, rather than the fictionalized, healed version of them you had constructed in your hopeful imagination. This realization is absolutely terrifying for a performative individual because their entire survival strategy relies on people buying into their illusion. They relied entirely on a script where you would endlessly forgive them, endlessly over-explain yourself, and endlessly shrink your brilliance to make their mediocrity feel comfortable. They need you to keep making excuses for their lack of evolution. By withdrawing your endless reservoir of benefit of the doubt, you force them to stand alone in the harsh, unflattering, fluorescent light of their actual behavior. They are frantically melting down right now because the mirror you hold up, simply by existing in your unapologetic truth, reflects a grotesque reality they cannot stomach. They resent your light, not because it is inherently offensive, but because it aggressively exposes the thick layer of dust in their own house. Think of them as someone trying desperately to catch lightning in a cheap plastic cup. Your anointing, your genuine spiritual power, your raw and unedited connection to the divine, that is the lightning. It is massive, untamable, inherently destructive to anything artificial, and entirely organic. They looked at your power and in their sheer arrogance thought they could contain it, mimic it, or steal it using the cheap, mass-produced mechanisms of manipulation, gossip, and ego games. But the moment the raw, unfiltered electricity of your truth made contact with their artificial construct, their cup melted. They are left holding nothing but the warped, toxic, burning remnants of their own failed strategy. Your checkmate in this step was simply walking away from the laboratory where they were trying to bottle your essence. You stopped supplying the lightning. You realized that your divine calling is not a rehabilitation center for people who are violently committed to misunderstanding you. The emotional mechanics of this realization are profoundly heavy, but ultimately serve as the ultimate liberation of your soul. You had to grieve the illusion of who you thought they were. You had to sit on the floor of your bedroom and weep for the death of a connection that never actually existed outside of your own empathetic projections. But in that grief, you reclaimed your spiritual sovereignty. The goofy, almost comical nature of their current behavior, the passive-aggressive posts, the frantic gathering of new enablers to validate their victimhood, the sudden desperate attempts to prove they are thriving, is just the pathetic thrashing of an ego that realizes it has permanently lost its primary food source. They are competing with a divine calling, which is the spiritual equivalent of a toddler trying to arm wrestle a Category 5 hurricane. They cannot win, They were never going to win, and deep down in the darkest, quietest corners of their deeply insecure minds, they absolutely know it. Your refusal to participate in their delusion is a stylish, permanent checkmate that leaves them entirely exposed, wandering the stage without a script, staring into an audience that has already gone home. Step 2. Weaponize the terrifying vacuum of your absolute silence. If there is one fundamental law governing the economy of a toxic, highly performative person, it is that their entire existence is built upon the currency of chaos. They do not know how to connect with human beings through intimacy, vulnerability, genuine mutual respect, or quiet shared presence. Their nervous systems are wired in such a deeply dysfunctional way that they literally perceive peace as a lethal threat and interpret high-conflict drama as love and significance. Therefore, to feel alive, to feel like they matter, and to feel powerful, they must constantly, relentlessly provoke a reaction from you. They will purposefully poke your old healing wounds. They will blatantly cross your established, communicated boundaries, and they will loudly whisper your name in rooms full of people who are committed to misunderstanding you, all in a desperate bid to pull you back down into the mud where they reign supreme. The profound contrast here is the breathtaking difference between your deeply cultivated internal architecture of peace and their frantic, flailing external performance of provocation. You have spent countless agonizing hours in the dark night of the soul, painstakingly learning how to regulate your own nervous system, learning how to find stillness in the center of the storm. They, conversely, have spent their entire lives learning how to manufacture the storm because they are terrified of what they will hear in the silence. The deep psychology of why your non-reaction utterly destroys them is rooted in the concepts of narcissistic supply and energetic vampirism. When you argue with them, when you defend your character, when you cry, or even when you passionately, aggressively tell them off, you are actively feeding them. You are subsidizing their existence. You are explicitly telling their ego that they are significant enough to disrupt your peace and powerful enough to alter your emotional state and command your precious attention. But when you consciously choose to embrace the profound, terrifying silence of non-reaction, you completely, mercilessly cut off their air supply. You step entirely off their meticulously designed chessboard. A pawn cannot capture a king if the king simply refuses to look at the board, stands up and walks out of the room. They are currently melting down because your silence acts as an impenetrable mirror, forcing their projected toxicity to bounce right back onto their own skin. Without your emotional reaction to act as a buffer, to absorb the shock of their malice, they are left entirely alone in a silent room with their own echoing, ravenous demons. Your silence is the ultimate weapon, because it forces them to look at the grotesque, undeniable nature of their own behavior without the distraction of your outrage. Imagine a desperately hungry, frantic parasite that has finally been detached from its host, thrashing around wildly on a sterile, white, illuminated floor. For years, you were the host. You provided the rich emotional lifeblood that kept their artificial, inflated ego pumping. You thought you were engaging in conflict resolution, but they were engaging in an energetic harvest. By going completely, radically silent, by refusing to explain your side of the story one more time, by refusing to defend your immaculate character to people who are addicted to misunderstanding you, you place that parasite on the sterile floor. The sheer, unadulterated panic they feel right now is the panic of psychological starvation. They will try absolutely everything to get you to react. They will escalate their erratic behavior. They will send flying monkeys to test the perimeter. They will create elaborate smear campaigns. All of it is just the frantic, goofy flailing of a starved ego trying desperately to reattach its feeding tube to your vein. But your boundaries are now coated in spiritual Teflon. Nothing sticks. Nothing penetrates. Your peace is hermetically sealed. This step requires a terrifying, almost superhuman level of spiritual maturity because your ego will absolutely scream at you to defend your honor. Your ego will want to present the receipts, state the undeniable facts, and prove to the entire world that you are the sane one and they are the abuser. But the chosen one eventually learns that the court of public opinion is a kangaroo court entirely run by clowns. You do not need a verdict from a clown. You do not need validation from a circus. Your checkmate is fully realized in the quiet, unshakable sanctuary of your own mind. You simply observe their provocations with the detached, clinical curiosity of a scientist watching a frantic insect trapped in a glass jar. You don't hate the insect, but you certainly aren't going to open the jar and let it bite you. This non-reaction is the most stylish, untouchable, permanent power move in the entire spiritual playbook. It communicates absolute superiority without having to utter a single, exhausting word. It tells the universe that you trust the divine timing of your ultimate vindication infinitely more than you trust your own ability to argue. And in that beautiful, expansive silence, the universe goes to work aggressively on your behalf, dismantling their strongholds while you simply sit back, breathe deeply, and enjoy your peace. Step 3. Expose their frantic mimicry as a devastating admission of spiritual bankruptcy. As you ascend higher into your authentic self, you inevitably begin to shed the behaviors, speaking patterns, and reactionary impulses that were originally born from your trauma. You start moving with a distinct, undeniable rhythm that is entirely your own. This is your soul's biometric signature, an energetic fingerprint that cannot be replicated, purchased, or borrowed by anyone else in the cosmos. The imitator, the toxic individual who has been secretly studying you from the shadows, recognizes the undeniable power and the effortless magnetism of this authenticity. But instead of undertaking the brutal, unglamorous internal work required to excavate their own rhythm, they make the deeply lazy and parasitic decision to simply steal yours. You will notice the contrast here is almost jarring. You speak from a place of deep, lived experience, carrying the heavy, beautiful weight of your scars, while they regurgitate hollow phrases they heard you say, sounding like a tribute band that doesn't know how to tune their instruments. You move with the quiet, unshakable confidence of someone who has survived the fire, while they strut with the brittle, loud arrogance of someone who just bought a new fireproof jacket and wants everyone to look at it. They adopt your aesthetic, your spiritual vocabulary, your hobbies, and sometimes even your life goals, all while completely lacking the fundamental anointing required to sustain them. The deep psychology of the imitator is a tragic, exhausting study in profound self-loathing. They do not mimic you because they admire you in a healthy, inspirational way. They mimic you because they are absolutely terrified of the vast, echoing void inside their own identity. When they are forced to look inward, they find nothing but cobwebs, insecurity, and a deeply fractured sense of self. So, to avoid the psychic collapse of facing their own nothingness, they look outward and find you, radiant, grounded, entirely original, and intensely alive. Their subconscious magical thinking dictates that if they can just wear your skin, perfectly parrot your words, and occupy your physical or digital space, they will miraculously absorb your inner peace. But the spiritual realm operates on the physics of truth, and the universe does not recognize plagiarism. When they try to use your spiritual passwords to open the doors of blessing, abundance, and authentic connection, the system denies them access. They become frantic, melting down behind closed doors, absolutely baffled as to why doing exactly what you do does not yield the exact same results. They completely fail to comprehend that the universe rewards the pure frequency of the heart, not the desperate pantomime of the physical body. Your profound power comes from the heavy price you paid in private. Their spectacular failure comes from trying to skip the crucifixion and go straight to the resurrection. It's like watching someone try to conduct a world-class symphony orchestra by aggressively, wildly waving a stick in the air, completely ignorant of the fact that they don't know how to read a single note of music. And the musicians aren't even looking at them. They are going through all the physical motions of leadership, of spiritual depth, of profound wisdom, but there is no music being produced. It is just chaotic, embarrassing, deafening silence. Your checkmate here was not to call them out publicly. You didn't need to post a side-by-side comparison of their mimicry or loudly accuse them of stealing your intellectual and spiritual property. Your checkmate, executed with absolute, undeniable style, was simply continuing to evolve at a speed they could not match. By the time they figured out how to perfectly imitate your last phase, you had already metamorphosed into something entirely new, entirely unrecognizable to their limited perception. You left them constantly clutching at the ghost of who you used to be, forever one step behind, forever wearing last season's energetic wardrobe. This dynamic highlights the sheer, undeniable goofiness of those who try to compete with a genuinely anointed, chosen one. They are running a race on a completely different track, sweating, bleeding, constantly looking over their shoulder at you, while you aren't even running. You are flying. You have realized that imitation in the realm of spiritual warfare is not the highest form of flattery. It is the loudest, most pathetic confession of an identity crisis. When you finally recognized their stolen script for exactly what it was, a desperate coping mechanism for a hollow soul, you completely stopped feeling threatened by them. You stopped feeling violated by their psychic trespassing and started feeling a profound, detached, almost clinical pity. You realized that to actually be them is a punishment in itself. They have to wake up every single day and exhaust massive amounts of psychological calories, trying to remember how to be a counterfeit version of you, trying to remember what mask to wear and what lines to say. Meanwhile, you just have to wake up, take a deep breath and exist. That effortless organic existence is the ultimate flex. It is a checkmate that cannot be undone because it relies entirely on your perpetual, natural, divine growth, a force of nature they are entirely powerless to stop or contain. Step 4. Neutralize their smear campaign by ascending completely beyond the battlefield. When a highly performative, fundamentally toxic individual finally reaches the terrifying realization that they can no longer control you, manipulate your emotions, or extract a single drop of reaction from your stabilized nervous system, their immediate, predictable pivot is to attempt to control how other people perceive you. This is the chaotic birth of the smear campaign. They frantically begin to run from person to person, gathering what psychology accurately calls flying monkeys, the enablers, the gullible listeners, the chronic gossipers, and fellow toxic individuals who are easily swayed by a dramatic sob story. The contrast here is incredibly stark and beautifully defining. You, operating in your divine calling, have actively chosen the path of authentic, sometimes painful, but profoundly purifying isolation. You have bravely allowed the universe to prune your social circle down to the absolute bare minimum, deeply preferring the quiet, nourishing company of divine alignment over the noisy, depleting validation of a confused, low-vibrational crowd. The imitator, on the other hand, absolutely cannot survive in isolation. To sit alone is to invite psychic death. They must aggressively construct a crowded emptiness. They gather a pathetic court of easily manipulated jesters to sit around them and sing loud, off-key praises of their victimhood, aggressively agreeing that you are the terrifying villain of the story. The deep psychology behind their compulsive need to manufacture these alliances is driven by a profound, unshakable, subconscious guilt that they will never, ever consciously admit to themselves or others. Deep down in the very core of their being, beneath the layers of delusion, they know exactly what they did to you. They know the subtle betrayals, the calculated lies, the endless manipulations, and the intentional, malicious sabotage. Because they entirely lack the moral backbone and the emotional courage to face the crushing weight of their own guilt, they must outsource their conscience to a crowd. If they can manage to get 5, 10, or 20 people to nod along and agree that they are the innocent victim and you are the malicious monster, then their incredibly fragile ego can temporarily, successfully suppress the screaming truth. They need the choir of enablers to sing loudly enough to drown out the relentless whispering of their own convicted soul. They are melting down right now because maintaining this false, fabricated narrative requires an exhausting, 24/7, high-stakes public relations campaign. They have to constantly manage the spin, ensure none of their allies compare notes and find the inconsistencies, and keep the performative victimhood dialed up to a 10 at all times. It is a pathetic, deeply draining existence that ages them energetically and physically. This dynamic is best understood through the visceral metaphor of a crumbling, termite-infested house with a perfectly painted, gleaming front door. They are standing on the porch, inviting everyone to admire the fresh coat of paint, desperately hoping nobody asks to look in the basement where the foundation is rotting away and the rats are multiplying in the dark. You, the chosen one, used to live in that house. You know exactly what is in the basement. You know the unmistakable smell of the rot. And instead of standing on the front lawn, screaming at the top of your lungs to the new guests that the house is condemned and dangerous, you simply packed your bags, moved entirely to a different city, and built a magnificent mansion on solid rock. The tragic comedy is watching them host a loud, frantic party on the porch of a collapsing structure, terrified of the inevitable moment the floorboards finally give way. Your checkmate is your absolute, uncompromising refusal to attend the party, comment on the party, or warn the guests. You deeply understand that people who are naturally drawn to toxic, gossiping narratives will inevitably have to learn their own painful, brutal lessons when the floor eventually caves in under their feet. There is an undeniable, almost goofy, dark humor in watching them scramble to build an army against an opponent who isn't even on the battlefield. You have completely moved on. You are pouring your energy into your healing, your expanding business, your divine calling, and your profound spiritual awakening. Meanwhile, they are hosting covert meetings, starting secret group chats, and spending hours entirely dedicated to discussing your absence. In their desperate attempt to destroy you, they have actually made you the invisible gravitational center of their entire universe. By doing absolutely nothing to counter their smear campaign, by refusing to issue a statement or defend your name, you actually amplify their paranoia to an unbearable degree. They fully expect you to fight back. They have a script prepared for your retaliation, complete with counter-arguments and fake tears. When you offer nothing but crickets and continued success, they begin to second-guess their own strategy. The silence drives them mad, and they start attacking their own allies out of sheer paranoid exhaustion. You checkmated them with absolute style by letting their own venom poison their own well. You preserved your vital energy, protected your sacred peace, and allowed their manufactured alliances to inevitably collapse under the crushing weight of their own collective, untreated dysfunction. Step 5. Starve the toxic spirit of competition by operating in a category of 1. The toxic individual who has spent years obsessively mimicking you, competing with you, and trying to diminish your light has simultaneously spent those same years constructing an elaborate, towering illusion of their own power. They present themselves to the world as sovereign, untouchable, profoundly wise, and highly evolved. They effortlessly use all the right spiritual jargon. They post meticulously curated images of a perfect, unbothered life, and they demand absolute, unquestioning loyalty from those unfortunate enough to be in their inner circle. But this sovereignty is a paper-thin facade. It is not rooted in the deep, unshakable, agonizingly tilled soil of truth. It is precariously propped up by the fragile, rusting scaffolding of external validation. The contrast between you and them is the profound difference between a majestic, ancient mountain and a cheap Hollywood movie set. You, the chosen one, are the mountain. You have endured the violent tectonic shifts of childhood trauma, the freezing, desolate winters of profound isolation, and the scorching, relentless summers of spiritual testing. Your strength is geological. It cannot be moved, shaken, or intimidated. They, however, are the movie set. From the front, under the right lighting, they look like a formidable, impenetrable castle. But if you walk around to the back, it's just cheap plywood, duct tape, and a crew of panicked stagehands desperately trying to keep the walls from blowing over in the wind. The profound psychological terror they are currently experiencing stems from the undeniable fact that a real divine wind has finally begun to blow through their life. The universe is applying pressure. Divine timing is bringing their long overdue karmic debts to the table for collection. And because their sovereignty is entirely false, they have absolutely no internal shock absorbers to handle the impact. When a genuinely grounded, spiritually mature person faces a crisis, they retreat inward, connect deeply with the divine, take accountability, and find a steady anchor in the storm. When a performative, toxic person faces a crisis, their mask slips violently. They lash out at everyone around them. They blame shift, they panic, and they make erratic, deeply self-destructive decisions. Their deep, visceral fear of your light is rooted in their subconscious knowledge that your authentic presence alone highlights their flimsiness. Just by standing near them in your quiet, authentic, unshakable power, you inadvertently make their plywood castle look utterly ridiculous and incredibly small. They are frantically running around, trying to patch the holes in their facade with more lies, but the storm of truth is violently ripping the roof off their entire manufactured identity. To properly visualize the goofy, pathetic nature of this dynamic, imagine someone wearing a magnificent, glittering paper crown while standing proudly in the middle of a Category 5 hurricane. They are screaming at the top of their lungs at the storm, demanding that the wind respect their royalty, furious that the rain is melting their authority and the debris is shredding their dignity. They look absolutely absurd. They look goofy. And this is exactly how the spiritual realm views those who try to usurp the position of a genuinely anointed chosen one using manipulation, deceit, and performance. You don't have to summon the hurricane to destroy them. The universe, in its perfect justice, provides the storm. Your only job, your only responsibility is to stay warm and dry inside your spiritually fortified house, watch from the window, and witness the inevitable messy dissolution of their paper crown. The true tragedy is that they could have sought real shelter. They could have humbled themselves, admitted their deep brokenness, apologized for their malice, and done the agonizing work to heal. But their blinding pride demanded they stand in the storm and pretend they were weatherproof. Your checkmate in this step is your radical, unwavering acceptance of divine justice. You have finally, permanently stopped trying to save them from the brutal consequences of their own actions. In the past, your overwhelming empathy might have driven you to run out into the storm with an umbrella to protect them, getting yourself soaked, battered, and sick in the process. Now you realize with crystal clarity that rescuing them actively interrupts the divine lesson they desperately need to learn. By leaving them entirely to the elements, you checkmate their reliance on your codependency. You allow the total, unmitigated collapse of their false sovereignty to happen exactly as it was divinely ordained. This is a devastating, lethal blow to their ego, because they can no longer blame you for their downfall. When they finally look around the smoking wreckage of their manufactured life, searching for a scapegoat, you are nowhere to be found. They are forced to finally stare into the terrifying, bottomless abyss of their own accountability. This stylish, hands-off, effortlessly cool victory proves that true spiritual authority never has to forcefully dethrone an imposter. The imposter will always eventually dethrone themselves simply by failing to sustain the unbearable, crushing weight of their own lies. Step 6. Sit back and witness the spectacular collapse of their counterfeit reality. This is perhaps one of the most hidden, insidious, and deeply complex layers of the dynamic between a true chosen one and a toxic imitator. On the surface, the hater acts as though they absolutely despise you. They belittle your achievements, they mock your boundaries, they roll their eyes at your spiritual insights, and they actively try to diminish your light in front of others. But beneath this aggressive, dismissive exterior lies a pathetic, parasitic, undeniable truth. They secretly look to you as their ultimate spiritual authority. They are inextricably, desperately tethered to you energetically. In a profoundly twisted, subconscious way, they view you as the parent they never had, the enlightened guru they desperately wish they could be, and the ultimate judge whose gavel they fear the most. Because they have no internal compass, they need your spiritual permission to feel real. Every time they provoke you and you respond, they are subconsciously asking if they are real enough to affect you. When you get angry, you validate their existence. When you patiently explain your spiritual insights to them, you feed their grand illusion that they are operating on your level. They are an energetic vampire, and your ongoing engagement is the premium, life-giving blood they need to survive the coldness of their own reality. The profound contrast here is one of internal versus external orientation. Your compass points firmly inward, directly to your unshakable connection with the divine. You seek validation only from the source. You move when you are called by the Spirit, you speak when you are divinely led, and you rest when you are commanded to be still. You do not need applause to know you are on the right path. Their compass, however, is entirely broken, its glass shattered, and it is magnetized exclusively to you. They obsessively track your every move. They base their entire self-worth on whether they feel they are currently winning or losing against you in their imaginary competition. The deep psychology of their current unrecoverable meltdown is the direct result of you systematically, ruthlessly cutting the energetic cord that connected their broken compass to your magnetic north. You stopped explaining your decisions. You stopped trying to make them understand your elevated perspective. You stopped giving them the spiritual permission of your sacred attention. You starved the parasite, and you did it without a flinch. Think of this dynamic as a desperate, sweating actor performing an elaborate melodramatic play on a stage to an audience of one. For years, you sat in the front row. Sometimes you clapped, sometimes you booed, sometimes you threw tomatoes in frustration, but the crucial point is that you were always watching. The actor derived their entire sense of identity, their entire reason for breathing, from your reactions. Your checkmate wasn't to climb onto the stage, steal the microphone, and prove you were a better actor. Your checkmate was simply standing up, walking out of the theater, and turning off the lights on your way out. Now, they are standing on a pitch-black stage, wearing a ridiculous, ill-fitting costume, screaming their lines into a terrifyingly empty void. The silence is deafening to them. The lack of an audience forces them to hear the unbearable, hollow echo of their own terrible performance. They are absolutely terrified because they do not know who they are if you are not there to witness them. They relied entirely on your spiritual weight to anchor their flimsy reality. And without you, they are floating away into the cold vacuum of irrelevance. By aggressively starving their need for your permission, you reclaim a massive, unprecedented amount of life force energy. You will suddenly notice your physical health rapidly improving, your mind clearing of brain fog, your sleep deepening, and your manifestations accelerating at warp speed. This is because the massive energetic leak you had been unconsciously sustaining for years has finally been plugged. You are no longer subsidizing their spiritual deficit with your hard-earned anointing. The goofy reality of their situation is that they are now forced to try and extract that same deep, nourishing energy from the shallow, toxic alliances they built, only to realize with horror that a room full of vampires cannot feed each other. They're all starving, looking around the room, wondering where the magnificent light went. You took the light with you. This checkmate is permanent, because once you truly realize that you are the source of the energy they so desperately crave, you can never, ever be tricked into handing it over for free again. You have established a permanent energetic quarantine, and their frantic banging on the glass from the outside only serves as a comforting, rhythmic reminder of how safe and protected you now are on the inside. Step 7. Finalize the unseen energetic severance without looking back. The final, most devastating and absolutely irreversible move in this entire masterclass sequence is the complete mastery of your own momentum. The toxic person, the frantic imitator, the hidden hater, they all operate under the grandiose delusion that they are a permanent, immovable fixture in your narrative. Even if they have fully accepted the role of the villain, they take a sick, twisted pride in being the primary antagonist of your life story. They genuinely believe that you will spend the rest of your days nursing the wounds they inflicted, writing cryptic posts about them, talking about them in therapy for decades, and secretly looking over your shoulder to see what they are doing. This is the ultimate delusion of a narcissistically inflated ego. They absolutely cannot fathom a reality where they become utterly, entirely obsolete to you. The glorious, unbridgeable contrast in this final step is the profound difference between eternal stagnation and limitless ascension. They are trapped in a labyrinth of their own making, endlessly running the exact same toxic maze, fighting the exact same petty battles, and wearing the exact same rotting masks. You, however, have sprouted magnificent wings. You are no longer navigating the frustrating walls of the maze. You are flying entirely over it, ascending into the clouds. The deep psychology behind their absolute, unrecoverable meltdown in this final stage is the crushing realization of their own total insignificance. For a highly toxic or narcissistic individual, being hated is acceptable. Being feared is ideal, but being completely forgotten, being rendered entirely irrelevant to the very person they obsessed over and tried to destroy, that is psychological death. When they realize that you are genuinely moving forward, that you are building thriving new businesses, discovering unprecedented levels of joy, attracting healthy, high-vibrational love, and stepping fully, unapologetically into your prophetic calling, they shatter into a million pieces. They thought they had broken you. They thought their coordinated smear campaigns and relentless energetic attacks had permanently clipped your wings. Seeing you rise, unapologetically glowing with divine favor, looking better, feeling better, and living better, is the ultimate proof that they never truly had any power over you at all. They were just a temporary speed bump on your magnificent highway to destiny. Metaphorically, this is the exact moment in the grand chess match where they look down at the board and realize they have been playing checkers all along. They are obsessing over capturing a single, insignificant piece on a flat, two-dimensional board, loudly celebrating their petty little jumps, while you have been orchestrating a multi-dimensional grandmaster strategy that spans across timelines and spiritual realms. Your final move isn't a loud, aggressive attack. It isn't a vindictive strike designed to draw blood. It is simply the quiet, elegant, perfectly timed placement of your final piece that structurally, permanently traps their king without a single drop of blood being spilled. Checkmate. The game is over, and the ultimate style of this victory is that you don't even stick around to watch them knock over the board in a screaming tantrum. You stand up, straighten your posture, and walk out of the park into the blazing, warm sunlight of your new reality. You leave them sitting there alone, staring in horror at a board they never understood, playing a game they could never win, against an opponent who has already forgotten their name. This forward momentum is the ultimate definition of style. It is the epitome of unshakable grace under fire. You do not look back, because you deeply understand the spiritual law of looking back at the burning city of toxicity, entertaining the drama of the past, only turns you into a pillar of salt, frozen in bitterness, trauma, and regret. You refuse to be frozen. You refuse to let their dysfunction dictate the speed of your destiny for one more second. You solidify this checkmate every single morning you wake up and consciously choose radical gratitude over grievance. You solidify it every time you create something beautiful out of the ashes they tried to bury you in. You solidify it by radically, unapologetically, outlandishly thriving. Your success, your profound internal peace, and your unbreakable alignment with the divine are the final crushing verdicts that completely rewrite history. They desperately wanted to be the authors of your destruction, but you checkmated them with style by proving they were nothing more than a microscopic footnote in the epic, triumphant masterpiece of your ascension. Let us zoom out for a moment and look at the magnificent, breathtaking big picture of what has actually transpired here. This entire ordeal, this exhausting, drawn-out battle with performative, toxic imitators, was never really about them. They were merely the heavy resistance training your soul required to build the spiritual muscle necessary to carry the immense, glorious weight of your calling. The enemy used them as convenient pawns to try and distract you, to try and pull you down into the muck of petty arguments, self-doubt, and low-vibrational warfare. But your authentic alignment was always the real target, and it is the one thing they could never, ever touch. The reason everyone in the unseen realm and everyone paying attention in the physical realm is talking about how you checkmated them with style is because you defeated them not by using their dirty weapons, but by rendering their weapons entirely useless. You proved once and for all that darkness cannot conquer light. It can only serve to define the exact space where the light shines the absolute brightest. You do not need revenge. You never needed revenge. Revenge is the clumsy, desperate tool of the powerless. Your exponential growth, your unshakable peace, and your brilliant, blinding authenticity, that is your vengeance. That is the final verdict the universe has handed down unequivocally in your favor. You have been completely vindicated by time, by truth, and by the undeniable divine hand that guides your every step. Do not waste another ounce of your precious golden energy looking backward at the people who are drowning in the shallow puddles of their own making. You are called to navigate the deep, magnificent oceans of destiny. Before you go, make sure you have subscribed to this channel to stay firmly anchored in this frequency of victory. Hit the like button to seal this transmission in your spirit. Drop a comment with what point hit you hardest, and share this video with a fellow chosen one who needs to know they have already won the war. You are untouchable now. The checkmate is permanent. Stay chosen, stay blessed.